It's underscore of the Time Pals, and some weeks I'm more dad than podcast host, but fortunately for me, I've got pals to step up and carry the geek flag. Before we start, I want to thank all of our new listeners who helped get us to our most downloaded month in our short, sweaty, heavy-breathing existence. We appreciate all of you. Be sure to follow us on all of our new social pleading platforms, Instagram at Timepalspodcast, TikTok at official Timepalspodcast, and everything else that can be found in the episode description.
Late nights and cheap wine, we gather around the mic, just killing time. Tales of glory days, now long behind. A podcast of dads who lost their minds. We reminisce on the good old days when we had hair and our bodies didn't ache. Now we're just middle-aged guys with thirst for fame, telling stories and jokes, we've got no shame. The world's moved on, but we're stuck in the past.
With me, as always, is perma guest show ShadoSpartan.
Yo, yo.
And man from the vicinity known as Nickel.
Hello, hello.
And of course, last, always for me, in my heart, Jobn.
That's fair. I'm always the slowest one anyway.
Before we start, during the pre-show meeting, Shadow mentioned that one of the YouTube Twitch personalities he follows is now in a lot of controversy. And if you know the history of the show, a couple of years ago, we started out as a podcast that looked at the weirdest and worst of YouTube. So naturally, I wanted to know what was up with Dr. Disrespect. So Shadow, what's going on with your boy?
Well, for those who don't know, even though every YouTuber seems to be talking about it right now, back in 2020, Dr. Disrespect had said he was staying on Twitch. He got this new contract back when Mixer was still around. And people like Ninja and Shroud got contracts and were moving over there. So Twitch had to make their own contracts. So it seemed like, oh, cool. Dr. Disrespect is staying on Twitch. And then out of the blue, suddenly he was banned from Twitch. He then sued Twitch for breach of contract. And eventually it was settled. But no one was allowed to talk about it because of the non-disclosure agreement. So long story short, 4 years later, this month, a former Twitch employee was trying to sell out his band concert and made a tweet saying if it sells out, he will let everybody know why Dr. Disrespect was banned off of Twitch. Eventually, he came out with the message saying that he was messaging or whispering a minor. And then that's when a couple days later, Dr. Disrespect, even though he was denying it, eventually confessed and said he was going on vacation with his family, taking a break for a while. But I think even he knew it was over. His career's done. The San Francisco 49ers dropped their partnership with him. NBA 2K is taking his avatar out of their game. And his own gaming studio, Midnight Society, kicked him out. I mean, it's done.
So I know very little about him, honestly, other than I've seen him around because he's got a very specific, very unique look. And then being a Niner fan, he showed up on draft day, I want to say like a year or two ago, and announced the draft pick. So immediately I'm like, I don't know who the F this guy is, but he looks hilarious. And that's all I ever learned about him until he showed up again. Actually, after you mentioned him, like, let me go take a look. He became like you were talking about all these personalities, like talking about him all the time. He showed up on a personality I do watch, Asmund Gold, who was, I don't know, I would say defending him, but basically saying that there's more of the story, we need more proof. It sounded like this is what, like a 17-year-old or something like that he was talking to.
Well, we still don't know like what the age is. Is it a 17-year-old or could it be someone even younger? We don't know the details or what he specifically said. He just said if you read them, you could say that they were inappropriate.
And then it's what a person who worked at Twitch that reported him, wasn't it? The actual
former employee, someone pretty high up. There was only very few Twitch employees who investigated this, and so there was very few who knew about it. But this one because I guess most NDAs are only good for 4 years. So this was the month that he could actually start talking about it.
I mean, as much as Dr. Disrespect complains about lag, maybe he thought that by the time his messages reached the kid, she'd be 18.
Who knows?
I hate you. Being the guy who obviously does the YouTube stuff, Shadow, like, is this a big deal? Like, does Doctor Disrespect? I'm assuming he's got like millions of followers and stuff like that. Like, is this?
Yeah, I mean, at one point he was one of the biggest streamers out there. Every time you'd click on Twitch, he'd be, top of the page if he was streaming. But even when he went to YouTube, he still found success. I would sometimes watch his channel. The best parts for me is when he would lose in a game, because his character was all about being the best, the champion, always coming in first place. And when he would die, he would come up with some excuse. It was either lag or this person's cheating or the game is broken, and he would start screaming into his microphone about the developers need to fix their damn game. There's even one where he died, and literally you just see him unplugging his computer, and it just says the stream suddenly ended.
I always wondered how much of that, I never got into watching him regularly, but I was so curious how much of that was him kind of cranking it up for the camera, or if he was using the character as an excuse to let his actual rage come out, and that was all legitimate rage, but then he could fall back and be like, oh no, I was just in character as Dr. Disrespect, I'm not actually that mad.
I'm sure it's a combination of both, because I feel like I would do the same thing.
Your avatar is a man with a helmet and a shield and a spear. I hope you do not do anything like that at all.
I try not to, especially since the last retrospective, which comes out in 40 minutes.
Nice.
I had a raging moment in the game because the stupid autosave was in a bad spot where I was getting attacked. And so I kept dying over and over. And so I was just like, this freaking game. And I just yelled like so loud. Next thing I knew, my wife came downstairs and she's like, can you keep it down? I'm trying to work.
So am I.
I'm like, yeah, I'm working. I need good, content like this.
That's a serious Sam, right? Is that what the next one is?
Yep. And
oh god, I love those games. I really do.
in 38 minutes now, the episode will be out.
Yeah.
Go watch it.
Yeah,
even though you
looking
should have
forward
already
to
been watching it by the time this podcast comes out.
Yeah. Go watch it again.
So there you go, Time Pals.
Well, no, we have analytics, motherfuckers.
I know, yeah, exactly. I've learned a lot about us and everybody else in the past like 2 weeks. So anyways, this episode, the one you should be watching first or listening to first before ShadoSpartan, Jobn is decided to take over the reins. I did the first time around. I let Nickel do it. A little painful today. Jobn's going to do it. More painful. Take it away, Job.
Yeah. I got this. I won't put you through too much stuff. So today I decided that, we're going to talk about America's true great pastime, television. So forget baseball. TV is where the real action is, people. We've evolved from rabbit ears to binge-watching marathons, glued to screens bigger than some people's living rooms. TV has gifted us with reality shows that are anything but real, endless crime dramas, and news channels that keep us blissfully misinformed. Yet here we are, religiously tuning in, because what better way to spend our time than lost in the glow of our beloved magic box? So, cheers to TV, the great American distraction. And we're gonna start off. I have a couple questions, and we'll go round robin. I won't make us pick numbers because I know some of us have difficulty with numbers. We're just gonna
Mike
go
just automatically
on
goes
my
last.
own show.
Just say it. He's got to go last.
You know, what?
I was actually going to throw a
volunteering
curveball
go
to everybody
I'm volunteering
and
to go last.
This is
and
going to become
because
a
of that,
thing.
you're going first, sir. And because of that, you are going first because you're trying to get out of it.
Just ask your question and get the fuck out of my face.
So the first question is something that I think everybody does, be it just in the background while working,
Oh,
be it
no, you
something
are the
for
only one that masturbates.
well to episodes of Friends, yes, but what are some shows that you regularly rewatch, and why do you rewatch them? And it's not doesn't have to be an annual rewatch. It could just be something that comes around every 2, 3, 5, 10 years, but it's something that's kind of near and dear to you, and you actively decide to rewatch that show.
Yeah, nice try. It's not Monday Night Raw or SmackDown,
Uh,
I guess.
we were all expecting it.
Surprisingly not, right? In all honesty, I'm not a big television watcher anymore because I work super late nights. So the vast majority of the water cooler shows are long over by the time I get around to watching them, and then I have no one to talk to. So it always feels like the world has kind of moved on. But kind of like my taste in music, I kind of peaked in college when I had time to binge a lot of that stuff. So I find myself going back to honestly like just random stuff. I could rewatch Penn and Teller's bullshit over and over and over again
Oh yeah.
because I love that style of reality television where it's funny, it's innovative. Sometimes you agree with 100% what they're doing, sometimes you don't. I adored Anthony Bourdain's No Reservations,
Mhm.
Our Foods in terms of like quote unquote real shows, like scripted stuff, Arrested Development, the first 3 seasons were
Yes.
basically on repeat, like
Yes.
all the freaking time. Just I, and that show was so tightly written, and I would notice things on rewatches
Right.
that I just would never. I didn't have to put on anything else. So just if I missed something the first time, I'd rewatch it, and then I would catch like three more things. So yeah, that those are for me. And then I guess more contemporary. I got super into like Fargo and like Better Call Saul. But if you want to
Oh
talk about
yeah.
like stuff I could just put on right now, I could throw on any episode of Arrested Development and just be content and probably binge an entire season for no reason.
Right on.
Oh, and SmackDown.
That's
Of course.
so the truth comes out. You tried to give us the misdirect at the beginning. Oh, it's not Raw or SmackDown. And then you just slid it in, gave us the old taint tickle at the bottom there.
That's what I call my wrestling shows. You're right. Come on, kids. It's time to go watch The Rock Taint Tickle.
All right, ShadoSpartan, your turn. Same question.
Similar kind of thing. I don't watch too much TV shows. I'm more of a movie person, but shows that I regularly rewatch, probably no surprise, Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I like to rewatch, especially certain episodes. The only one that I do probably once or every other year rewatch is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I do love Avatar and the world they created.
Exactly.
And even honestly, they did a pretty good job with the live action one. I was quite surprised after the whole M Night
Yeah, yeah.
Shyamalan.
The movie garbage. Don't know how they
You don't
thought.
know Jobin, but like I don't watch anime, so my kids for my one older kid for the first time ever started having me watch Avatar. I'd never seen it like ever, and
It's a
it's
great show.
what's funny is I still won't watch anime. I still hate all of it, but I understand what you guys are talking about with the world because it is really really interesting. It's honestly pretty interesting.
Mhm.
It's still hard for me to get into it just because it follows a lot of the tropes that I just can't catch on to. I can't properly explain it. There's something about the way they tell their stories. It's hard for me to lean into. But unlike when I tried to watch Dragon Ball Z for a previous episode, I was like 30 minutes of nothing. At least it felt like the story was moving, like, yeah, I totally dug the world they were doing. I agree. I haven't seen the live action though.
I mean, to be fair, with Dragon Ball Z as your example, there's a reason that they came out with Dragon Ball Z Kai, which was a condensed version of the show that basically took out the 150 episodes worth of power up screaming in order to kind of hurry that whole ordeal up. So maybe that would be your jam. Plus, you're gonna have to do it when I make us do round robin anime reviews together. So you're gonna have to watch some.
No.
Yeah, I'm vetoing that idea too.
Ah.
See, a man of culture like myself.
All right, round robin hentai reviews.
No, I'm gonna
God.
veto that one too.
Wait, let him cook.
Let him cook. Maybe he's working on something.
All right. Did you have were you still going before we jumped in and
Actually, my
started
third
going
pick
off on
was going to
that?
be Dragon Ball Z, so it's perfect of Mike
Oh,
to
you
say
bastard! I
it
could
for
feel
me.
it.
So,
I felt it in the
so
air.
thank you.
I do love. I mean, I really do love Dragon Ball Z. It's like it's the first anime that I ever watched,
Yeah.
or at least that I realized was anime.
I'm trying to think, what was like the very first one I ever watched? It probably was Dragon Ball Z, but I'm also thinking of Sailor Moon just because there was not much else to watch coming home from school.
I do remember. I want to say it was like in the Saturday morning cartoons. They brought over a couple shows like Ronin Warriors, but it wasn't properly called Ronin Warriors here. And then there was, I feel like, one or two others, and I had no concept of what anime was at that time. So I was like, "Hey, sweet, it's these 4 or 5 dudes all kind of transforming in the way that Power Rangers do into their and then fighting demons and stuff." And then when I got older, I'm like, "Oh, this is way cooler in Japanese, uncensored." And it's anime.
Yeah, I just love watching the. For me, I watch the Raditz when Dragon Ball Z first starts, all the way till the end of the Cell Saga. That's as far as I go.
Oh, not a Boo fan, huh?
I need to rewatch it because actually I didn't finish that season. I got when was it Young or Evil Boo? When he
Yeah,
gets
when
the
Boo goes
smaller
from fat,
version of
happy
and what's
candy
his name
eater.
does the shocked face, the like he's having the weirdest
Isolate that sound.
in the world. Oh, that'll be a clip. Don't worry. But yeah, I just love the final episode, Gohan versus Cell, and that final moment of it looks like this is it, it's all over, and then Vegeta comes in at the last moment to give him a chance to defeat him. I always get
Yeah.
goosebumps in that episode every time. It's so well done.
Oh my god, this burns. Go to the next guy.
Okay, I'm done. Move on.
He hates anime so much. All right, Nickel, you're up.
Okay. So I would say much like underscore. I like to watch a show that is just humorous, a light watch, So I'm going with Futurama as one of them.
Oh,
I could watch, the first 5 seasons of Futurama like on loop. I'll put it on to go to bed. Like it's such a comfort show for me, and it's hilarious. And
That's
it
a very
seems
good
like
pick. Yeah.
the jokes, and much like underscore and Arrested Development, for me the jokes sometimes even get funnier. You're like, oh crap, I forgot how funny that joke was, how clever that is.
Yeah.
honestly, I probably watched more episodes of Futurama at this stage than I have of Simpsons.
Right.
Like in the
Right.
past,
100%.
10
Yeah.
years.
And another one that I will throw on, but this is more of like a passive watch. If I'm channel surfing and I see that The Office is on, I'll throw that on just like as background noise, because again, it's another, you don't have to super pay attention to it to enjoy it, but just having that background noise on sometimes is nice. But that's a great show too, and I could rewatch that over and over again and not get tired of it. And I'm not much of somebody that's going to, I guess, throw a show on and actively, like, I set out like, oh, you know what I want to watch is this series again. But there is one series, and that would be Band of Brothers.
Oh,
Band
yeah.
of Brothers is a series that I will just get this itch to watch, and I'm like, I gotta watch that. Yeah, I gotta watch it all the way through. So
World War II show, right?
Yeah, admittedly, I've never seen it.
probably once a year at least, I'm rewatching
Oh,
that
wow.
whole series. I'm
Yeah,
binging
usually
that
around
whole
Memorial
series
Day.
again.
That's usually
Right.
I try to watch. I mean, that's usually when it's being broadcast somewhere.
doesn't it have like a pretty crazy cast of people that weren't necessarily famous when they were on that
Yeah,
show?
no, it's a fantastic cast. A lot of cameos and stuff. But yeah, it's a great show. And so yeah, I think that's probably the ones I'll always fall back on rewatching.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely have Band of Brothers on my list, and I've had a DVD copy of the entire series for many, many years
Right.
because we went and cleaned out a relative's home and we didn't realize what a hoarder he was. So there was like mountains of
Oh
DVDs
man.
among the small arsenal of weaponry that, that he had, that we had to turn into local PD because most of which was not legal. But I was like, okay, we'll keep the DVDs though.
Yeah, I got the box set of Band of Brothers. But lately I'll
Nice.
just fall back on watching it on like Max or something.
I'll go with a couple of mine.
Yeah.
So I watch a lot of TV, mainly because work is so boring for me. I guess I shouldn't say that boring necessarily, but it's a lot of data entry, a lot of typing, a lot of so having background noise is very important so that I don't go crazy. And there's a couple shows that I rewatch regularly as background noise, and that's things like The Office as well. Parks and Rec is a big one, and I can just listen to the jokes and the gags there. So I probably go through Parks and Rec maybe like and Brooklyn Nine-Nine like twice a year, just purely as background noise. But then the shows that I will actually sit down and rewatch very regularly and make the effort to rewatch them are Star Trek Deep Space Nine, which is my favorite Star Trek of all time. It has everything in it I would want from a Star Trek show.
Interesting.
Psych. I love that show.
Psych.
It's just 7 seasons of just nostalgia and goofy ass 90s and 80s references and music. And they just the whole cast just has such great chemistry there. I just love rewatching it. I love a good ensemble show like that. And then in line with that is Scrubs. Again, I love just like a good group cast like that plays off each other and just lots of goofy gags. And although though Scrubs is the one show no, two shows. There are two shows that have made me do it, but Scrubs was first. That made me fucking tear up and cry. And I won't say when it is, but I'll just say that it involves Brendan Fraser.
Right. No,
I know this one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that one.
So
there's a lot of good Scrubs episodes.
so yeah, those shows will get a proper watching, if not every year, every 2 years. I just got to rewatch Deep Space Nine recently because my girlfriend never saw it. She only watched Next Generation, and I was like, "Great, we're gonna watch every season of Star Trek now. Sit down."
Romantic.
Yes, I think it's frowned upon these days to hit somebody over the head with a club or give them some sort of drugs. So I just figured if she's bored to sleep by Star Trek, then that works. But no, it's cool. She's really into it, and so that's been fun because I got to rewatch a bunch of Star Trek shows too that I haven't rewatched since they've been on the actual air.
Brief aside for Scrubs, I have a family member that used to date. What's his name? What's the name of the lead actor?
Zach Braff?
Yeah, Zach Braff. She didn't date Zach Braff. She dated I guess what do we call it, the stand-in for Zach Braff on Scrubs?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and that dude was a dick. He wanted to be a filmmaker, and his films made no sense. The only thing that looked like Zach Braff was the back of his head. So, like,
Yeah.
anytime you see the back of his head where you don't see Zach Braff, that's fucking him. And when they had a messy breakup, out of solidarity, I refused to watch Scrubs. So, like, I only saw like a handful of seasons, and I'm like, no, that guy is a mean person. But I'm not mad at Zach Braff. I'm mad at the guy whose back of the head you see in like 3 scenes in an episode. Just it has nothing apropos. I mean, it doesn't really have anything to do with Scrubs itself, but I was so angry just out of solidarity.
But I appreciate that. I appreciate that loyalty. And I would have done the same thing. I've blacklisted several companies and shows because I'm just like, oh, I know somebody who, XYZ reason something happened. Fuck
Oh,
that. Fuck
100%.
that thing.
If you quit the show and then we replace you with somebody whose name is also John, I will hate you.
But what if it's an arguably better John?
Then I will hate both of you.
Fair. I'm okay with that. I'm okay as long as the hate is equally spread.
Yeah, well, no, it will be. It'll be thick. You pour it on pancakes.
All right, question number 2. Part of me feels like I know the answer for you already on this underscore, but if you could get a show picked up for another season, what would it be and why?
How would you know the answer? Are you talking about like if I could bring back WWF superstars?
I just assumed that it would be another good season of Arrested Development.
No,
Honestly.
in all honesty, you know what I would bring back just because I saw the movie sort of recently is the Venture Brothers. Do you guys know that one?
Oh man.
Do you really? It's
Oh yeah.
came out
Uh-huh.
back in like 2003.
Yeah, it was another Toonami show. Not Toonami.
Adult Swim. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Grown
then
up
it
Toonami.
yeah,
Yeah.
Colonel Tsunami. It ended in 2018, but they took so fucking long to make episodes. They didn't even get 100 episodes. That's what, 15 years? You can't even get
Yeah.
to 100. If you've never heard of it, it's basically Hardy Boys meets like Johnny Quest with like this huge dash of Adult Swim like violence and absurdity. And
Very a good amount of Rick and Morty in there.
before Rick and Morty though,
Yeah,
and
but I feel yes, I should say the opposite. I feel like Rick and
yeah,
Morty took a lot of
I feel like it had like how do I describe it? Because I didn't get the popularity it deserved, but it had like a blend of like parody of those shows, and then they would mix like the dumbest one-liners, the dumbest shit you've ever heard. So like you'd have an episode with these awesome arcs about like fatherhood and destiny and identity, and then there'd be like a throwaway villain named like Nat King Cobra or like female Hitler. And I remember one, it was the first time that I felt like they were doing the internet thing. This is back in 2003, and they were doing the internet like fan thing better than anybody I could tell at the time. Where you could join their club, where they would send you a free T-shirt every month based on the show. So they would introduce something, and then that thing would be on your shirt that you would get. And it was cool because like nobody watched the show, so you felt like you were part of the special like nerdy club. And then, obvious being a super fan of it, as the years went on, the creator of it, Doc Hammer, would talk about how the show's biggest theme was failure, and that the beauty of the show was that every character, no matter how fantastic their adventure was, all kind of sucked at the thing they loved. That by itself, like we have a show that's based off failure, and it's hilarious, but we never really got. It deserved more because when you watch the movie, which is it was borderline on something I could regularly rewatch, although I don't mean it's an okay movie. You could tell that they had tons and tons of ideas and could constantly spiral out to different directions, and they couldn't get their shit together long enough to do it during the seasons. So when you have to blast it through a movie, it just isn't very satisfying. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
If you've never seen
they
it,
were
it's a great
supposed
show.
to have an 8th season before the movie, and then the movie ended up being the
Basically
swap
condensed
out for the
season.
season.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Basically.
because it got canceled. I forget how far into production or if it was even in production. But then they released I don't even remember the full title, the something Baboon Heart, that movie that came out last year.
Yeah, a couple years ago, I want to say. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. I should have prepared better for this. But yeah, something Baboon Heart is what you'd probably title that Venture Brothers, honestly.
I mean, I feel like that's an episode of Family Guy. The Star Wars one, something Dark Side was. I feel like that was the title of one of their Star Wars specials.
It was the second one.
Oh, Radiant is the blood of the Baboon Heart.
That's a good title.
Yeah, the
like
Star
that.
Wars spin-offs were Blue Harvest, something Dark Side, and It's a Trap is the third one.
I could go into a whole thing about Family Guy and how like that shows. I do love that show. It's. I feel like we needed that show when Simpsons started to slip.
Oh yeah, there was definitely a gap in there for something.
All right, Shadow. Same question to you. If you could have a show get picked up for another season,
I'm going to piss off the internet and say The Walking Dead for another season. The mainline Walking Dead. I know so many people, probably like what, season 9 is when people are like, this show needs to end. It's just getting ridiculous. These characters, just everything they keep going through, and they make it to the end, and it's just like, it needs to end.
Is season 9 like? Yeah, I was gonna say it's season 9 lines up with the comic, right?
I have no idea.
Well, I mean, that's how the comic is, though, pretty closely. But that's really what the comics felt like too. Was like, oh my god, okay, and spoiler alert, I suppose, for anybody. But when they were going through the whole thing with the saviors, and you're like, oh my god, this is Negan, this is the like ultimate fight. Oh, okay, we beat him, and now you turn around and now there's instantly another, huge bad guy army you have to fight. Like that's how the comic was. And so I kind of feel like I mean the show was pretty true to the comic for the most part, but the people that are complaining that,
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I know they got the spin-off shows, the Dead City, Daryl Dixon, The Ones Who Live. That
Wait, Daryl Dixon got his own show.
Yeah, he sailed to Europe apparently.
What the hell?
Yeah.
For a character that wasn't even in the comics, that
Sounds like a
blows my
Hallmark
mind.
movie.
Yeah, just sailed over to Europe, I guess. I haven't seen him, but
How
I just
great would
saw it
it
from
be
the
if he got there
advertisements.
and there were no zombies?
Oh no, there's plenty of zombies.
It was just the United States was fucked, but every other country was great. And he was like, what the hell?
That would be the show I'd watch. Holy shit.
Just Daryl Dixon getting used to normal life again.
Right.
Just dealing with heavy PTSD and having to deal with European culture.
But yeah, I guess I would say, well, I probably should just watch the spin-off shows, but they'll probably do a couple seasons of those and then they'll come back for a 12th season. Is probably what they'll do.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, maybe it'll be good. I do remember the interview with, oh god, why can't I think of names? The creator Kirkman, with Kirkman, where he basically said that the show reflected his vision for the series more, and they had the funding to do it because they had gotten popular with the comic. But with the comic, like Image was in a period of like you had to come out with a comic and show that your book was awesome and amazing and could hook people. So he had to dive straight into everything and just go like right for the drama, right for the action, for everything. And then when he got the green light for the show, he was able to go back and just kind of stretch it out a bit, add more characters. And I do understand that and I appreciate that. I don't think I watched past the or even finished the Negan arc. But maybe I will eventually. It's a great cast. I love Michael Rooker pretty much without question. Wish he was in more of it.
Yeah, it's just hard to say. Like, I'm not saying like my absolute favorite thing, but still worth seeing for sure.
Yeah. I just need Norman Reedus to stop making fucking TV shows and video games and give me Boondock Saints 3. This was supposed to be a trilogy. They were going to go fight the Pope, I think. I don't know. I couldn't tell what was going on necessarily there. But I want my Boondock Saints 3, damn it.
I'm on the other side of that, which will piss off the other half of the internet. I actually thought Boondocks was overrated.
Well, it's okay to be wrong.
Your silence means yes? Oh, okay, my bad.
I can understand why people. I mean, I'm absolutely the person who hates shit just because other people like it so much.
No, not even that. I watched it and I said, this feels like a Tarantino draft of something that could be really cool.
Yeah. See, that's why I liked it, because it was kind of along those lines, but it was a little bit more simple and low budget, and I've always liked that kind of stuff. But I like I very much understand why people don't like it too. But just for me, the quotability of it and everything is it's a classic to me. Nickel, give us what show do you want picked up for another season?
Okay. So I thought about this a little bit differently. I think my list of shows that I would want picked up for another season is a lot shorter than shows that I wish never got picked up for an extra season. Okay. Uh, for instance, the Futurama reboots. I wish they never happened.
Never watched it. Never watched a single one.
Now, so when it went to Comedy Central, it wasn't too bad. Or no, I can't remember if it was. Yeah, it was Comedy Central, I think. So like season 6, when it went to Comedy Central, it wasn't terrible. But especially now, this new Hulu reboot is just god awful, terrible. So yeah, I wish they would have left well enough alone and just left Futurama at the 5 seasons from Fox. Another one, it's funny, it was brought up earlier, is Scrubs. I feel like when it left NBC, that and then went to ABC again, I feel like they were trying too hard.
Let me ask, as a Futurama nerd, let me ask
I-
a question as who hasn't watched any of the reboots. Is it a different set of writers? Did it lack something? Like, why was it bad?
Okay, so well, like I said, when it went to Comedy Central, it wasn't too terrible. But I'll tell you exactly why this new Hulu reboot is so terrible, is because it feels more like they're trying to be Futurama.
I see. I see.
They're like, remember us? We're Futurama. Remember? And it's like it's almost like an impression of itself.
I see what you're saying. So basically, it's like, hey, look how drunk Bender is in this one. Isn't this funny, guys? You remember how
Mhm.
drunk Bender is? Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yeah, it's just it's not as subtle, you know. So yeah, that I mean, a show like that and a show like Scrubs, I wish they would have left it when Scrubs left NBC. I think that would have been better. However, there is one show that I could think of that I really would have liked to see another season, if not more, and that was The Oblongs. Do you guys remember that
Yes, I
show?
do.
Oh my god, yeah.
Right? It was so ahead of its time, and that's why it only got, what, like a season and a half?
Yeah.
Because it was on the WB at the time. This was pre Adult Swim. And I mean, like with a cast like Will Ferrell on there, and the writing was so funny. And I just feel like it was ahead of its time, and it got robbed of more seasons that it deserved.
Definitely a case of being on the wrong network for sure.
I think it was just wrong timing, you know? But I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand because, again, like I said, this was pre Adult Swim. So if Adult Swim had had that show, I think it would have had more seasons and would have been so much better.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. You would have at least gotten a few seasons out of that thing.
I mean, that's if you could keep Will Ferrell as the
Yeah.
casted and all of that.
No, I agree.
Well, I still think that Will Ferrell was on, was it 2000 that Adult Swim came out? So Will Ferrell was still like in the peak of his SNL stuff. I feel like if it had come out on Adult Swim, if they didn't fall prey to what normally happened with Adult Swim shows where there was kind of delays in recording and is it coming back, is it not, and all of that stuff, they probably could have kept Will Ferrell and some of the people on there for at least a good couple years.
Right. I mean, I think If they could have made it at least 3 seasons, that would have been cool, you know? But I feel like I want to see more of it.
I was just about to say, so like the one thing about that show, because I agree with you that I love the oblongs. And I actually had, or I don't think I have it anymore, but Angus Oblong, the guy who made it, I had one of his earlier books because this was back when we were doing the
Oh,
Ape
okay.
Con stuff, and all that, all those kind of writers were always pimping their stuff out there. And he talked about how he pitched. He's one of those ones where like super indie guy, like I can't believe I'm selling this show to a network, but at the same time he still took the money. You know what I mean? And
Right, right,
he was that kind of jackass. And as the show was there and it was very good and had its fans, he almost kind of like felt it's that weird thing where it's almost like I don't want to say that this is a good show because it almost makes me seem like I'm a sellout, but it also has its fans, so I can't knock it. And I think at some
right,
point in time, you that would have been an issue because even at the very beginning, he like didn't want to do press for it. He didn't want to be part of it. There was a
right.
behind the scenes thing where he's glimpsed for like all of a second. So like it was a mix of like wanting to be like Tim Burton and mysterious and shit. It was basically he was a pain in the ass.
Right.
I think away from him, if there was a way to like not even separate him, but just take those writers who wrote the show, because I have a feeling he didn't write Jack, and just take those characters, I think that show would have still been really good. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
really do, because
yeah,
that they had
for
something
sure.
with that show for sure.
They did. It was very unique and funny. And, it just felt like it had a lot of possibilities, in terms of like plot points and whatnot.
I say we start one of those surveys. Bring it back. We'll do one of the White House ones so people know it's legit, like when they asked the government to build a Death Star. All right. Oh, I guess I should go before we go to the next question. I learned my lesson about extra seasons with Scrubs and a group that did it wrong to the point where the cast just doesn't acknowledge the eighth season on their own podcast. And I love every time they do that. I feel like Psych did a great job with the idea of it and instead said, hey, let's just make 3 movies all like 4 or 5 years apart and bring the cast back together occasionally. And those have been fun. But if I had to pick one show to get a new season, probably no surprise, it would be Deep Space Nine. And only if they base it off of the current comics run because it's fucking perfect, but it's impossible because it's an amalgam cast of Deep Space Nine, Next Generation, and Voyager people. And 30 years after the fact, unless they did that crazy thing that they did to keep Paul Walker in the Fast and the Furious after the accident where they brought his brother in and then
Oh
CGI'd
yeah.
over his face, they would need to like de-age everybody by 20-ish years to make it work but the story of it is just it's fucking great. So that would be a dream for me to have them put those comics that are being written like right now, like they're in that comic run right now, to the big screen. Not to the big screen, to the TV screen, a screen. I'm desperate at this point. I don't care. Yeah. So that's just I'll give that kind of the quick answer so we can hop to our final question of the day. So what is a TV show that you love that people wouldn't expect? Could be a guilty pleasure, could be whatever reason you love this show, and that if you said, "Oh yeah, I watched that show," people would be like, "Really?" Kind of surprised by that. So underscore, give us.
AEW Dynamite. It's no. You know what? This is a hard question for me because most of the shows you would assume I'd like. To be real with you, like you could say almost any show that's either kind of weird, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, Pushing Daisies or Buffy the Vampire Slayer." Of course, he likes that.
Oh, such a
I
good show.
think if there was a show, at least at the time, if you would have known me, there's no way you thought I would have been all in on Mad Men. Mad Men was one of those shows where it had no whimsy. It wasn't even that funny. Everybody would complain about how it was basically like rich asshole white dudes and their problems, and I was all in. I thought it was a great show. I love the fact that you're watching essentially these guys who ruled the world, who believed that they were so again, it's a failure thing. I love failure. Hence me. So it's one of the things where you're watching these guys who believe they rule the world, and then you're seeing the world around them change and them having to like it's like that old cliche about a frog boiling in water slowly, and they don't really see it until it starts to crumble around them. And then you either go with it or you kind of lose to it. And it's I know it's a really well-known show, and I wish I would have pulled something out of my ass that's crazier. Like originally, I was gonna say One Punch Man because if you know me, you know I hate anime. But if you saw me, you clearly think, oh, he watches anime, so that doesn't work. Yeah, my thing. It's a simple answer. I don't have anything in detail, but Mad Men.
Okay. And I can see where you come from with that. I got through a couple seasons of it, and I think the reasons that you cited were the reasons why I stopped watching it. But I did understand the draw too. All right, ShadoSpartan, give me the good stuff, baby.
I'm pretty sure people know I'm not really a car person, so they'd probably be surprised to hear that I do like watching Top Gear or the Grand Tour, the three British guys.
Oh well, those guys are just fucking hilarious.
Yeah. Those three guys. And probably people would mostly think like, oh, you just like to watch it because they're funny, they like to make jokes. But whenever I do watch it, I do get interested in what types of cars they drive, or obviously they kind of advertise saying like, oh, this car company's coming out with this car and it has this much horsepower and blah blah blah. And I start to kind of get interested where I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool what some of these cars can do, how fast they are when they drive around the track. That's what I would say. I'm normally not into cars, but for some reason Top Gear and the Grand Tour actually makes me interested in cars.
Yeah. As much as I would like to say I'm in it just to watch the three of them give each other crap and pull their like what was the episode? I think it was a Top Gear episode, not Grand Tour, but where they were in like Alabama and they were driving cars that said NASCAR sucks on it, and like
Sucks.
some posse
Man love is awesome.
some posse rolled up on them at the gas station and was like, you need to leave this town now or you're not going to leave this town.
And they started throwing rocks at them and the camera crew. I mean, it was legit like, you guys went way too far
Yeah.
with this, and someone's gonna die.
Like even as they were like the
trucks
full of people like followed them until they got past the town limits and then turned around and was like, oh shit.
When you see like they pull out like a handheld camera or someone's cell phone, like bad quality, and you see everyone like taking their shirts off, pouring Coke on it, trying to scrub off all the stuff. Like, yeah, we need to stop this now.
Yeah. Good stuff though. Nickel.
Okay, so for me, it's an easy answer. Back in like my early 20s, I, along with my buddy, we really liked Degrassi. Yeah, we would like watch the new episodes and be like, oh my God, they went there. They said they'd go there and they went there. Oh my God. We just like, it was kind of a ironic enjoyment, but it
In your 20s? Where was this on in your 20s?
God, what was the channel? The N?
Yeah, it was like the teen, like didn't it go from the N or from teen Nick to the N because they were trying to appeal more to that teen
yeah,
group?
but so basically
Huh.
it was like a deep cable channel.
And this is the original Canadian show? Because there was a new one, right?
So yeah, it's the new one, not the one from the 80s.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like a
So they had like no, they had a Degrassi, the new or the next generation or
Yeah.
whatever.
That's where Drake is from.
We'd definitely like to dish about that show
So
for sure.
I've never watched Degrassi. I just know about Drake. But like it's if you compare it to like Saved by the Bell, like what's the better show?
No. Well, I mean, they're different shows. Like one is like definitely a teen drama.
So Degrassi took itself more seriously.
Oh, definitely. Their whole slogan was Degrassi, it goes there.
God, what a fucking 90s slogan.
Degrassi, people die of AIDS.
It goes there.
That's
Yeah, people get shot and have to sit in wheelchairs and stuff, you know?
They have guns in Canada?
Yeah.
Huh. I knew about the legal prostitution.
But yeah, I mean,
The
that's
bagged milk.
a short, easy answer for me, Degrassi.
oh, interesting.
I think for me there's two depending on generation. So in my 20s, My brother was very into Jersey Shore, not emulating any of that behavior. He likened it to just being able to sit down and relax while you watched a car crash happen,
Right. While you
and then
watch
the
that train wreck.
aftermath. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not going to watch any of these stupid ass reality shows. And sure enough, both myself and my other roommate found ourselves sitting down and watching Jersey Shore with them. Me a little bit less frequently because I always had so many jobs. But now, I think the thing that people would probably be surprised based off of seeing my home decor and my Netflix list, is I fucking love Downton Abbey. I will watch the shit out of Downton Abbey. I'm excited that they might come out with another movie. I am full board, fully on board with any expansions that they want to do, additional seasons. Like, that is A plus quality content to me.
There's something to be said about PBS shows.
Yeah, just I love a good period piece, man. It's just something about it, and this really hit it for me. I was a friend of mine convinced me, and she just was relentless about it. And she was like, "No, you got to watch Downton Abbey. No, you got to give it a try. You got to give it a try." And finally, I did. And ironically, it's how I ended up meeting my girlfriend now, because we were both watching Downton Abbey. So, I mean, if nothing else, it got me that. But also, it's fucking amazing. I definitely suggest you all take a nice sit and just enjoy the.
I think this is the first time I've ever heard PBS get somebody laid.
Well, hey, I'm happy to be the template for the new future. Let's go. Let's turn to forget Tinder. Let's all watch PBS. Do we want to do the
Sure.
fourth question?
Yeah, go for it. I'll get it all
Yeah.
in there.
Okay.
Yeah, we
okay.
can make it quick.
Yeah. The last question is just, there's lots and lots of great shows that have been out already. There's lots of shows that are getting picked up and optioned. But what is one show that you feel, or what is one like intellectual property that you feel like Hollywood or just has skipped over completely that you feel should be turned into a TV show?
We're back to me, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with a video game, and it came out in the early 90s, and it's called WrestleFest. Now it's got a Royal Rumble mode. No. I'm gonna go with a game made by LucasArts called Secret of Monkey's Island. Because
Oh God.
it was one of my favorite
Yes.
games. The series is incredible, and it felt, it's obviously, with all the choices I've had, there's an absurdity, but there's like a internal logic. It's got a lore to it for the most part. That shit probably shaped my, I don't know how to blame, not even sense of humor, but just like what I consider to be art, quote unquote,
Mhm.
very early on. It just, everything about that game made me go, "Oh, this is actually actively hilarious, and it's beautiful to look at." And then years later, when the Pirates movies came out, as a thrown bone to us, I think it was the second Pirates movie, but Orlando Bloom's character is dressed up like Guybrush Threepwood, and it's all of like a half a second. He just shows up in the exact same colors and stuff, and the moment I saw him, I'm like, "Oh shit, this should have been a thing. This 100% should have been a thing." And no one's it'll never be a thing. Pirates are passe, but if there's one game that would have, in my opinion, had already had the writing in it, it's that one. Like, you could animate it, live act, however you want to do it. It would have been that for me.
Right. I could see that.
Yeah, I almost want to say it would make a really good Adult Swim show. Keep the art style, but I could also see them attempting a good live action version. Yeah, live action version. You know,
No, we smell our own kind. We didn't lose until our mid-30s. I get it.
yeah. Especially there was what's it called? Our Flag Means Death. Like, proves there could be a really good comedic pirate
Yeah.
show.
100%.
And I mean, hell, put the group that did that. What was that? Was that Taika Waititi also? I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put Taika on that. Taika Waititi needs to make a Monkey Island show. and
He would
would be able to
understand the
pull it off.
tone totally.
Yes, that would be amazing. All right, ShadoSpartan.
Yeah, for me, it would be another video game IP. I think I want to go with, after watching The Last of Us and kind of seeing that team there, I thought did a really good job with taking the video game and then figuring out like almost each level as like its own episode. I think if I could take that team and I could get the IP of StarCraft and try turning
Oh.
that into either 1 or 2 seasons for like the Terran campaign, and then just each campaign we would just go on and figure out, can we do this in 1 or 2 seasons?
That would
That's
be
like when they made the Warcraft movie, and the rumor was you would see it from the Alliance for one movie, and then see it from the Horde from the other, and they just never were able to get that together. But yeah, that I like.
That would be my idea. But it would be expensive just because it would be like a whole new Star Wars, Star Trek kind of thing. But I think I could pull it off. I'll be the showrunner.
I have faith in you, but you have to cast what's his name who played Negan as Raynor.
Oh, wow,
I
that's a
know,
good
right?
one.
I've
Jeffrey
Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Raynor has been bouncing around my head for years.
That could work. Yeah.
All right, Nickel, go for it.
Okay, I got 2. One is a video game also, but I thought Dead Rising would make a perfect like one series or one season series. Not technically a series, maybe, but
A mini series.
you know, a mini series. I think if you took Dead Rising and made that into a show, similar to like
Oh.
24.
Oh, that's different. Yeah.
Like
In that style, yeah.
Right. Because you got 72 hours, so it's a limited amount of time,
Mhm.
but you can still throw in all that humor and all the ridiculousness of it. But I just think it would be really interesting to see that done as a show. Like I said, in the style of 24, where you have like almost this real-time clock
I
ticking.
think that's an amazing
definitely
idea,
work.
man.
Yeah,
Holy
good
shit.
idea.
Hire
Yeah.
that team and be like, there you go.
Like, that's legitimately an amazing idea. We need to keep this recording just in case something like this ever comes out and be like, no, we thought about this first. You give Nickel money,
That was my idea first.
or at least let him be an extra.
Okay, but there's another IP that I want to see remade. It was made into a movie way back in the 60s, but I want to see Phantom Tollbooth redone. I don't know if you guys are,
I'm only aware of it. Never saw it.
without going into the story of like the book itself, but basically this movie was done by like Chuck Jones, so it's very Looney Tunes style animation, and like they threw in a bunch of singing and stuff, and I just feel like I want to see that redone in a way that's more true to the feel of the book.
Yeah, if you don't know, Phantom Tollbooth is a children's book.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Like-
there was a moment in time. I guess. Well, I mean, I'm surprised you hadn't seen it, Jobn. But there was a minute there where it was like in all the libraries and stuff like that.
I'll look into it and see. It's not the Phantom aspect isn't like a what's it called? Like a scary thing. Like I could have my kid read it and she wouldn't be crawling into my bed at night scared, right?
No, I've read it to my daughter like 3 or 4 times already. I love this book.
I do remember this book now. Looking at the cover, seeing it in the library.
I love it by myself, I thought it was a great book just even as an adult. I feel like it got robbed back in the 60s. Like the movie didn't do the book justice.
I'm gonna add this to my list and read it now because realistically have never even heard of it, movie or book. So,
I'm surprised that title though always stuck with me. I never got a chance to read it. Ended up reading Flat Stanley for the 8th millionth time.
Right. No, it's a great book. Even for adults, it's enjoyable. It's got a lot of like clever wordplay and stuff, and it's just a really good all-around book.
Got a good recommend. That's actually secretly what I was doing this whole time, was just trying to get recs from you guys. So I was just like, oh, I'll just get them with questions and then take all the recs and write them down. For me, the one that I was gonna pick for me actually just got optioned to be a show, which was
Oh, no way.
yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't been on top of the news and things like that. But I know there was a cartoon show, and I'm a huge Green Lantern fan. And so there was the Green Lantern cartoon show that was fun. There's been a couple of solid, because we all know how solid DC is with animation movies. But I guess HBO picked up, and this is only announced like 5 days ago, apparently, that they picked up Lanterns, which is a live action series created specifically.
Get out! It's live action.
Yeah, it's going to be live action, so I'm very curious how they're going to pull this off. I didn't have anything against the way they did the design of the non-human characters in the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds, just how awful the movie itself was.
Was
But like
Yeah.
the designs of the alien characters, I've no issues with. So if they're going to do that, then I'm very curious to see what it is, what lanterns are going to be in it. But since that already got optioned, I was going to say there's another one, and it's based off of a comic, and it's a pretty recent comic. It's called Dawn Runner, and it's a Dark Horse comic about mechs versus kaiju. And basically, the whole premise of it is a century ago. I'll give just the synopsis because it's probably a better job than I would do. A century ago, a portal opened over Central America, and giant monsters came through. So now the world puts its effort into making giant mechs that are forever battling for humanity's continued survival and gladiatorial combat. So basically, they walled off all of the cities, massive walls, just like they kind of did in Pacific Rim, and big walls to try and keep the kaiju out. But now the other side of it is these mech pilots have become celebrities to a degree, and they televise the battles. So when a kaiju comes through and they track that and they get the signs that a kaiju came through the portal, one of the mech pilots, steps up to go fight it, or a couple of them, and then drones are flying around recording it and beaming it all over the world for people to watch and enjoy. And I'm a huge mech fan. I'm a huge kaiju and Godzilla fan. So that just hit like all of the marks for me. And it's been a really good read, really good writing and artwork too.
And I've never heard of this. That sounds right. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think it's only on its 4th or 5th issue right now. No, maybe the 3rd or 4th issue, because it only came out in like February or March of this year, but it landed with me really quickly. So yeah, if you dig the Godzilla stuff, if you dig mech stuff, be it, I guess most of which would have been anime, so you probably avoided that underscore.
No,
But
yeah, no.
I'm a huge Gundam fan too. Just like I've always loved giant robots, giant monsters. That's my stuff right there.
But I'm a huge Mech Warrior guy. Again,
Okay,
PC
there we
Master
go.
Mech Warrior is the shit. And I didn't really play BattleTech, but I'm aware of BattleTech from Mech Warrior. So yeah, I love that art. You know what I mean? I think it's fantastic. And then kaiju, everybody's got to love the kaiju.
Oh yeah, no, it's some of the best stuff recently, especially these recent Godzilla and Kong movies have been fun. But yeah, that's all my questions for this episode, gentlemen.
Nice, thank you very much. I know somehow I won whatever this was, so thank everybody for coming to play. Do you guys have anything else?
Go watch my Serious Sam HD video.
Yes, I'm gonna watch the crap out of it and just relive the nostalgia of Serious Sam. That game was chaos, and like
that's still. I mentioned the Shadow the other night, but that has one of my favorite just random game bits ever, where you see that headless kamikaze guy. It might have been for the first time, running over a sand dune. He's screaming, right?
Yes.
So you naturally, it knows you're a game player, so you're just gonna shoot it.
Yeah.
So you just pop him, he goes down, and then you mock him by screaming, and then you hear like dozens of screaming. Like all these guys that start running down. It's so
They come over
good.
the hill.
Yeah.
So fucking good. Yeah, it's one of those core memories in my brain over a game I haven't played in like, what, 15 years, 20 years?
And we never questioned how the headless guy was screaming. Awesome, man.
All right. So for ShadoSpartan, Jobn, and Nickel, this is Underscore, and we will see you next time.